few months ago, there was some discussion around changing the rules for hybrid mana in Commander. My question is, what was it like to talk about that change, and how did you ultimately reach your decision to keep the rules the same?
Before we answer that question, hands up in the audience if you want the hybrid mana change. So yeah, look pretty responsive. No. I have a lot I could say about this, but I think it's actually going to be more quick with these guys. So why don't anyone want to talk about hybrid mana in particular?
I do.
Go ahead, Trevor.
So in our discussion about hybrid mana, there was like a very convincing presentation about kind of how hybrid mana is used in like game design for Magic, and like how the intent behind it, and what it offers to decks, and all this stuff, right? And in our discussion, like I think a lot of people were quite swayed by like the presentation, and we thought it was a semi-safe kind of like thing to change, right? But then when we presented the information, you know, obviously like it wasn't as safe as we thought. Like here, there weren't that many hands on hybrid, right? The thing that I thought was very, very important about this particular decision is I think it's not so, the impact is quite high, but it's more, what I got from kind of everyone talking about it is that we're all very happy with how Commander is being played right now. And I think we're all not concerned, but we want to take it slow. And it's less so the fact that like hybrid mana is necessarily good or bad, but it's more so that the Commander that we enjoy is changing a little bit, you know, as new cards are introduced or the way it's being played. So I think it's not 100% if I like or use hybrid mana, but more so let's make sure that we're keeping kind of our experience and making sure we're making the right decisions for Commander in general. So that was what I observed about hybrid, not specifically about that, but like kind of how we, the community responded to it.
I think a big thing about hybrid was it was introduced as a tool that exists between 0 colors and 1 color. Right now there's no half color, there's nothing, that tool doesn't exist. And hybrid is designed as something that goes halfway between 2 colors. So it's supposed to be that 50%. And that's how it was designed. But in Commander, it's the opposite. It's not half, it's 2.
Yeah.
So it is a frustrating thing to design a tool that does one thing and that you think does one thing and is registered another way. So I think in the moment we were talking about the tool, all of us were not all of us at all. But at the time, I personally voted that hybrid mana is an okay thing to change on the contingency that we stop talking about it. But it was also, when it was presented to the community, the pushback was so sudden and so immediately felt that it felt like a direct attack on what Commander is at its soul. And that emotional response from the community was heard and was felt. Wizards heard it and was like, well, we're not at a position where the community is comfortable or interested in this change. So the conversation, for the time being, is over.
I was a strong proponent against hybrid mana, and the reasons for that are one of the identifying characteristics of the format is color identity. And I think when we start breaking away from that, we start breaking away from the initial constraints of the format in terms of deck building philosophy. In addition, I sincerely dislike the idea that a deck that was mono green had access to Besiege the Queen, which is a hybrid colorless and black deck, and now all of a sudden gets access to this color, which it shouldn't have access in the first place. And there was, as a CDH player, I'm trying to break it. How do I break this right now? And there were so many cards that I could add from one deck to another that allowed me to sincerely destroy some decks. And once I found that, I was like, no, can't do it. Yeah, that was definitely my thoughts on hybrid.
Yep.
Yeah, I could talk for hours on hybrid, so keep it brief. One of the really unique things about Commander is it was built from aesthetics up. Like it was designed as an aesthetics first format and mechanical one second. And the whole idea was your commander wouldn't put up with those other inferior colors of and so having those appear in the deck just viscerally feels wrong. They're cards, your mono black deck and suddenly have a weird little green border on the side. It's like, what's that doing here? And that's a big factor in my mind, is the aesthetics of the format.
I was definitely one of the pushbacks. I made a video on it. I did not like the proposed hybrid change. I still don't. I didn't like the argument that like, oh, hybrid mana works like this in every other format, but it doesn't work in Commander, because I felt like that is a feature, not a bug of Commander. I found it to be a strength and something that I personally was very excited about. Like being a Commander and being restricted to certain colors was something that I really enjoyed about the deck building experience. Same thing, like, you know, like most formats aren't, you know, singleton. The most formats aren't 99. Why are they like this? Well, they don't have to be. We can possibly change them. But personally, I really like all those features. And I'm not opposed to just changes in general about Commander, but I really like the idea of the color restriction as it is. And I really like the other rules of Commander as it is. And while it doesn't work like the other formats, I personally like how it's working right now. So that's why I was against the proposed rules change. I just like it how it is. And I'm not opposed to any changes to the format, but I really like how the color identity rules are working. It's more fun for me, and from what I heard from my community, it's more fun for them too.
Yeah, I'll just speak to it from Wizard's perspective really fast. I'll put on my game designer hat for a second, which is that in game design, it's, I would say, almost unanimous that we would prefer the hybrid mana change by like a lot. It is a great tool we have access to in making cards. It lets us do some really cool stuff that we just can't do right now. The example I would like to use is that Commander Legends 1, one of my original ideas is we would use hybrid as the way to let you play Legends in different decks, right? So a blue-white hybrid Legend could be a blue deck or a white deck, and not just a blue-white deck. It doesn't work right now. So instead we had to make partners as a kind of solution there. There's a lot of stuff we can do, and we're also making more and more hybrid cards that you'll want to include in your decks. But with all that said, despite the fact that basically the whole organization wants it to happen, the most important, taking off that hat, the most important thing to me is that we listen to the community, right?
Yeah.
And so we ran like a community poll, and it was about 50-50 for hybrid and against hybrid, and to me that's just not enough to make a change there, right? One thing I also heard pretty loudly was a lot of changes happened in a really short amount of time in Commander terms, right? The past 2 years since we started the format panel, we've unbanned more cards than we have in the past 10 years probably. We have changed that, have this spacecraft and vehicles rules change, all this stuff. So let's just cool it for a little bit. As Rachel alluded to, we'll probably continue to talk about hybrid forever.
Oh boy.
Hooray! And you know, I'm sure we'll revisit down the line. But I think cooling it for now is definitely the right choice. And I really want to stress that like listening to the community on stuff like this is something I care about so much. Why we have this great group here to talk about this stuff, and why we have a panel at all. Because I'll go out on a limb by saying, sometimes Wizards of the Coast does not make the correct decisions. And I like having a community panel to be able to help guide us in the right directions.